Fox's alert: the fight over President Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship rages in Washington, while some Republicans call hypocrisy on the left. That's where we start on Halloween. I'm Bill Hemmer, live inside of America's Newsroom. Welcome back to you, Julie.
I love your costume. You really pulled it off well. I'm Julie Banderas in for Sandra Smith this morning. So critics slamming the president's plan, saying an executive order on birthright citizenship is unconstitutional. But White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, well, she's placing blame squarely on the Democrats.
Let's not forget why we're in this place and why we're even here at all, and that's because of the failure of Congress, Democrats in Congress, to actually do their job. And again, the president is going to take whatever powers he has to protect our borders and to protect our country.
Doug McElway joins us live from the White House this morning. Hey, Doug.
Hey, Julian, we are headed for another major showdown over immigration after the president signaled this intention to sign an executive order ending birthright citizenship. The president suggesting that it lures many illegals here for the express purpose of producing anchor babies.
You can definitely do it with an act of Congress, but now they're saying I can do it just with an executive order. Now, how ridiculous. We're the only country in the world where a person comes in, has a baby, and the baby is essentially a citizen of the United States for 85 years with all of those benefits. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it has to end.
White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was asked just this morning what legal authority the White House is citing to sign this executive order, when many legal scholars have clearly said that the 14th Amendment can only be done through another constitutional amendment. Here's what she said.
There are a number of things that are allowed under the law. We're looking at all of those. Again, I go back to the president shouldn't have to do any of these things alone, but Democrats are failing to work with the president. He's laid out a number of different pieces of legislation that Congress could have easily addressed these problems and helped fix our system, and they failed to do that.
Indeed, immigration experts note that we actually have birthright tourism in this day and age, where foreign women get a tourist visa. They can stay with organizations that provide lodging and birthing services. Their newborn child becomes a citizen, and eventually the parents do too, through chain migration. Still, the president is meeting with stiff resistance over this proposal, and it's not coming just from the Democrats.
You cannot end birthright citizenship with an executive order. You know, as a conservative, I'm a believer in following the plain text of the Constitution, and I think in this case the 14th Amendment is pretty clear. And that would involve a very, very lengthy constitutional process.
The president will not be able to take away the birthright by executive order or legislation. That birthright is there. It's the 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
Senator Lindsey Graham is among the president's supporters. He tweeted yesterday, quote, "In addition, I plan to introduce legislation along the same lines as the proposed executive order from the president." There is no doubt a real political component to this as well. The White House has seen how these repeated images of the caravans coming up through Mexico has really instilled a fire within the Republican base. And with just 6 days to go now until Election Day, they want to keep that fire alive, and they see this as one way to do that. Julie?
All right, Doug McElway, thank you.
I want to bring in Charlie Hurt right now, a bit of analysis, opinion editor, Washington Times, Fox News contributor. Charlie, how you doing?
Good morning. Happy Halloween.
And to you as well. Your costume looks great, as Julie would say.
I'm dressed up as a respectable person. It's kind of a stretch for me.
Indeed. Nice tie. What is the strategy behind this in the final week, do you think, Charlie?
Well, I think that, you know, obviously the idea of ending birthright citizenship is not, for a long time, it was not a terribly controversial idea. It was an idea that was espoused by many Democrats as well as Republicans. But, of course, the way it's been interpreted over the last few decades, you know, obviously you have to do something to change that if you want to end it. And we can debate about what the 14th Amendment actually says, but I do think that Paul Ryan is right about one thing, and that is that if President Trump does this through an executive order, it will definitely cause court challenges. And if you have a court challenge and you have simply an executive order, it's going to be on much shakier ground than if you do it legislatively. And as Doug McElway pointed out, the problem is not just Democrats. Republicans have ignored this issue, have ignored the will of voters for a very long time, and tried to ignore the whole entire issue of immigration for a very long time. So it really is a problem, you know, for both parties.
Might be a court challenge before the sun goes down.
Yeah.
Lindsey Graham is a fan. Here's what he said. Finally, a president willing to take on this absurd policy of birthright citizenship. This policy is a magnet for illegal immigration out of the mainstream of the developed world and needs to come to an end. He's proposing legislation. See that going anywhere?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't see much of anything happening on Capitol Hill in the next 2 years if Democrats even just come close to taking over the House, let alone if they actually take over the House. I think most of the action we'll see is on federal courts in the Senate. But Lindsey Graham is right. Donald Trump should be commended for the fact that he's the first president in a long time to understand what an important issue this is to voters. And you may disagree with those voters, but the fact remains they have very significant concerns about illegal immigration and the degree to which policies like this attract further illegal immigration.
My suggestion is that Lindsey Graham and the president of the White House knew